Definitely was complete and utter chaos. Waking up to news that today still doesn't even like make sense. Even to this day, like nobody can predict stuff like that. Nobody. Nobody in this life can predict something like that. I remember just like calling my mom, and I don't even know, like, how do you even, like, I just think I remember being like, Elijah died, he's dead, Elijah died, Elijah died, like, saying it over and over again, like, over and over again. Elijah died, Elijah's dead, he died, he's dead. I remember saying it so many times to her. She was with my grandma. They were out to eat or running errands or something. They were doing something together. And I just was pleading this over and over how Elijah died. She panicked. The minute I said it, she panicked too. She panicked. Lost her mind. They both immediately rushed home, and then I remember I was on the phone. I had called one of my other close friends at the time, who was also close to Elijah, and just being on that phone call with him obviously just confirms it even more. And we were both just so heartbroken. Like, I've never seen, you know, I had never seen him in that state, and he had never really seen me in that state when that happened. That was a very, very traumatizing experience for the both of us, and for the rest of our friend group as well. Like, those days didn't even feel real. It didn't even feel real. The stuff like that didn't even feel real when it happened. It felt like just a movie playing out. It didn't feel like it was actually happening. But it was. It was happening. It was something that was not only just happening, but it was going to leave its mark on each and every one of us in its own way. And I know for me how it's left its mark for me, but I can't speak for everyone else. My mom eventually got home with and my grandma, and I just broke down. I remember just breaking down to both of them. I just broke down. Just broke down to my mom, just like broke down, collapsed type of feeling. You're not there when something like that happens. You're just not there. And I remember my aunt and like my uncle and my cousins, they all came over and were like, trying to show me love and support. Eventually, all my friends ended up coming over, so our whole friend group came over. Few of them pulled up, and then we had to get one of my other close friends at the time from work. He was at work when this happened. He was at work, and we had to go get him, and they had to pull him out of work and tell him like what just happened. He left immediately, and we all got together, all my whole friend group, everybody. I'll never forget how like we all just came together, and we all came together at my house. We all came together at my house. That's where everybody went and met up, and we all were together, and we eventually ended up going to his mom's house. We ended up going there, and I just remember like pulling up there. There's like a couple people on the porch that I didn't really even know. And even if I did, I didn't care to know because I was just so like struck with horror and grief and shock and pain and why and how and so many things, right, running through my head. But I remember pulling up there and going into the back. I went into the back. The house, okay, so his house, and he's been in this house, mind you, his mom's house, been in this house since we were in first grade, since we had first met, been in the same house. So this is the same house that I would go to go for sleepovers, to play, to hang out up on the front lawn. You know, we'd have like little kiddie pool, hanging out in the kiddie pool on the front lawn. It's the same house we hang out in the backyard. You know, same house through and through. Never changed. It was the same house, same layout, same furniture, even everything, same stuff, right? Always was the same. Went there to that same house, and now it hits me even harder because I'm having to understand that I will never see my brother again at this house. I will never see my brother at this house alive again. I will never walk into this man's house and see him waiting for me, or never have him come out for me to pick him up, or never, nothing. I will never be able to see my brother at that house again. I think that's what really hit even harder when we got there, because I remember walking up. We had parked far because there's a lot of cars, and we walked down the block to get to the end of it's the last house on the street on the right, and it's pushed up to train tracks. So there's like, it's the house, and it's a little, you know, ranch style house. It's tiny, no upstairs but a basement. It's all the way at the last house on the last, you know, it's the last one, pushed up against the not really an alley, I guess, just a road that's also next to some train tracks. It's not really an alley, it's just a dead end, and then the dead end has a road that can go to other roads and whatnot. Pushed up against the train. I'm walking, I go to the backyard, and his mom, I see her. The minute I see her, we lock eyes. I'll never forget this. We lock eyes. She sees me, I see her, and I just took off and ran into her arms and broke down even more than I had already broke down up to that point. It was so intense, man. Some shit that I could never even try to like really get you to understand either. I could never really get you to understand what that feels like, because words don't do it justice. Those are the moments where words aren't needed, where you're just, I'm sobbing in his mom's arms. I'm sobbing in mama's arms. I'm sobbing, breaking down, and all I feel is this void. When she's hugging me, it's like, it's just this void. It's a void that is forming now from this pain, from this loss. And it was just felt, and we sat for so long, just gripping each other. I remember pulling away from her and going in the backyard. You know, there's a tree that's in the backyard right along the fence line. I remember going to that fence where the tree was at and just breaking down all over again. It's a type of cry that I can't even, like, I can recall it so like in these like brief flashes, but to put it into like a word would be so diminishing to like what that feels like when you just over and over, the breakdowns over, you have one and then another comes, and it hits harder and stronger, and it's like life is just disarray. It's pure and utter disarray. Nothing else matters in that moment. All you can think about is this person who you love so much, and that you'll never see them again. And that you'll never get to watch them grow and mature. He was 19. My brother was 19. Elijah Craig Stewart was 19 years old when he got shot and murdered. 19. Hadn't even made it out of his teens. He didn't even make it out of being a teenager. I was 19. We were both 19 at the time when this happened. And so all I remember is just being on that fence, crying my eyes out, looking up at the sky. I remember looking up at the sky so much and just tears cloud your vision. They stream down your face. They just stream. You can't stop them. And the pain, the agony that's felt in your body, it just radiates. It like vibrates your whole being. That pain is something else. And I remember I just had to be alone in that moment, like just by myself, because I was so fucked up. And I think my friends, you know, that I came with, they were all fucked up, but it's like they were all so like, it was like everyone was just so numb. Everyone was just like numb to that shit. And all I was doing, sitting there just bawling my fucking eyes out, like could not stop crying. I could not stop. I could not stop crying. I could not stop because it was so horrific. Because of the way he died, because of the age he died, because of the fact that he died. The fact that he died. And he died in a brutal way, in a cold way, in a angry way, in a violent way, in an aggressive way. He died in such a sickening way, a disturbing way. Being shot multiple times outside of a liquor store. And I saw the footage. And I saw the footage when everything was going on with the court and everything was going on where they were having court hearings for it and the case was, open and all of that. When everything was happening with that, I saw the footage that they played on that Zoom call. I saw the footage of him walking out of the store and getting shot at. And then you see him go flinch back into the store and the fucking glass shatters on the store door. Shatters completely. And for years they didn't even replace that shit. That shit was a piece of cardboard. He was murdered. He was murdered. My brother, Elijah Craig Stewart, was murdered due to gun violence. It fucked me up. It fucked me up so much. So much. So much. I could never tell you how much it's fucked me up. I could never tell you what it did to me for years to this day, right now. I could never tell you how much it's hurt and how painful it has been to navigate life after going through that loss of my best friend. That pain, it just hurts so bad when it hits you and you're just reminded. It doesn't ever really go away, it doesn't ever really leave. It doesn't ever leave you, really. You just have to find a way to keep on going through it and finding new things to live for, because I can't tell you how many points that I was ready to go. Even before this happened, mind you. Not like this is, I'm saying even before this all happened. So this happening was this was big. And I had shit happen. A lot of stuff happened up to that point. And before that, seen too much, been around too much, witnessed some stuff. All of that, man. And then this happened, and it completely, my world was destroyed. It's destroyed. It's just destruction. Just pure destruction. My innocence shattered. I remember going back out from the backyard and going to the sidewalk and being in front of the, house and being on my fucking knees on the sidewalk, just being on the ground, just my knees to the ground and just looking up at the sky and just pleading. I remember being on the tree that was out front and just like pleading and just like, why, like just so much emotion. It was so heavy. And I remember my sister, his sister, also my sister, being in the car out front with their other sister, and the look, I don't even know how to explain like the bleakness that was washed over her face. How bleak her face had become. How there was like no trace of real life in that face or behind the eyes. It was sort of just like the shell of a body that remained through my sister's soul just being destroyed. This was her best friend too. Lifelong, like me and bro didn't even meet till we were, in first grade. This is big sis, older sis. Been in this before even him. Came up in it with him. Only a year apart. That's, her best friend. Her everything. Gone. Gone. Just like that. With no trace. Gone. Just gone. No trace. I remember opening that door to her car and just, oh my god, it's like we were both just so fucked up. Just so fucked up about it. We were just so fucked up about it. It was like, it's just a horror. It was a horror movie. It was a horror movie. It was the worst. It was the worst fucking thing I could have ever imagined. I could have never even imagined it to happen. But then when it happens, it's like it's the worst possible case, ever. I hope nobody ever has to go through that, and I hope nobody ever has to go through what I've gone through or see what I've fucking seen. I hope that people, the next generations don't have to keep experiencing this type of stuff. Because what is it gonna take for us to stop killing one another and hurting each other? We're just hurting ourselves. We're just hurting the world. We're just hurting one another. We're hurting ourselves when we do this too. It's like we're not even just hurting someone else. You're hurting everyone. Over nothing. Over absolutely nothing. Over fucking nothing. You're just hurting yourself. You're just hurting the world. We can't do it anymore. We can't keep doing this. We can't. we're killing each other every fucking day. Nobody's building nobody up. Y'all forgot what this was. Y'all forgot what this was. You forgot what the fuck this was. You forgot. We all did. We've all forgot what the fuck this is. It's supposed to be heaven on fucking earth. The fuck? I wish nobody had to see their mans in a fucking casket. I hope nobody ever has to see that shit. I hope you never have to see it. I hope you never have to see the pain that it causes everybody that person loves and that loves that person. I hope you never have to see that shit. It fucking destroys you. It destroys everything. It destroys it. It ruins people's lives. It ruins our lives. It destroys our fucking lives. It kills people. It killed me. I died when my brother fucking died. I died when my brother died. Y'all don't know what that did to me. You'll never know, even me talking about it right now and expressing the emotions that come from it, you'll never fucking know what that did. You will never understand unless you go through something similar. You'll never be able to fathom what that's like at such a young age. If ever, mind you, if ever, that's horrific no matter what age, but 19, you're a child. I was a kid. My brother was a kid when this happened. We were kids. The fucking kid who shot my brother was younger than my brother. He's younger than my brother. He's younger and he killed him. What the fuck are we doing? It's not gonna help anymore to keep fighting. I'm done fighting. I'm done fighting people. I'm done fighting anything in this life. I've been done with it, but it's just hard when there's so many things that just try to divide us and separate us and keep us apart from loving each other. We need to love each other, bro. Because my man can't even love his family through hugs and affection and touch and communication. You know, he can't even do that. He can't open up his arms anymore and go up to his sister and hug his sister. He can't go up to his mom or his little sister. He can't go up to any of them and do that. And I do that. I do that for him. I do that for him now because he can't. The rest of that day was a fucking... It was a fucking... You don't even, like, remember what... I remember we, like, went back to my house and we ate pizza. My mom had, like, ordered pizza because we were just... distraught. And we just sat there together and... I don't even know how the rest of the night played out because it was just so blurry. It's so blurry now. And then the days that followed, we had the ceremony, the funeral. I was a pallbearer. I had to carry my brother's casket, and I'm honored to have carried my brother's casket, but I was carrying my brother's casket at the very front, carrying that motherfucking casket. I was at the very front carrying that casket, bro. Holding my brother in a fucking coffin. At age 19, I was carrying my brother to his grave. My ex, she had flown in from Maryland. She came in from Maryland. I was supposed to be going to Maryland, by the way, to visit her before we went back to school. When we started school, literally 2 weeks after he had passed. Mind you, school starts end of August. This happens beginning of August. August 6th was when he actually passed away. August 7th and then onward was when we all found out, and all the ceremony and everything. I go to school a couple weeks after all this happens. Not even to that point yet in the story. And what that was like, going back to New York City, Lower Manhattan, attending Parsons School of Design. What the fuck that was like, grieving my best friend while trying to be a full-time student, and I haven't even gotten there yet. But my ex, she flew in from Maryland. She flew in. I was supposed to go there originally, but had to cancel the flight, obviously, because everything that happened. And she flew in, and she came, and she was there to support me. And I'll forever be grateful for her for that. I will forever be so grateful and so thankful for her, because she was there. She was my rock, to say the least, during that whole time period. And cannot thank her enough, even to this day, for that. She was there through the whole everything, all of it. I remember, like, the day that we went to, the viewing. This was like before the actual like ceremony that was held inside of a funeral home or whatever. And we went to like the viewing. All of us just like lined up there in those chairs, those wooden like chairs. Pretty sure it was at a church. Yep. Funeral home. O.H. Pye, the third funeral home. 17600 Plymouth Road, Detroit, Michigan. 48227. O.H. Pye Funeral Home in Detroit, Michigan. Because when I say I died in Detroit, I remember just being at that viewing there, and when you see your brother laid out in a casket, body is lifeless. Body has nothing. It's a shell, bro. It is a fucking shell. It was a shell. Hollow. Drained of blood, and it was puffy. You ever seen, a dead body when they try to do it up? It was puffy. The body was like puffy. His face looked different. But he still looked fresh. They dressed him up beautifully. He had the buffs and everything. He still looked fresh. Not a surprise. Brother was always swaggy. But I just remember going up to that casket and just like seeing that shit, bruh. Oh my god. How do you even explain how that feels unless you've been in that position, you know? You know what it is. Or you go up to that casket and you just look inside it and you see this person that you've grown up with your whole life and matured with, you turn into a young man with. You saw him from the time he was hyper as shit, first grade. Little kid just running around having fun, bald head, bald fucking head. Then all the way now to him being in the casket. I mean, it was like, what? And then when we actually had like the service, ceremony, whatever, just sitting there and like, hearing his papa a preacher, like he was the one preaching, he was the one who was speaking to everybody. So many people, man. I'll never forget how many people, so many people showed up. And yet so many people weren't there. So many people showed up and yet so many people weren't there. And I remember so many of the people that weren't there. That should have been there. If you're watching this, you should have been there, but you weren't. You should have been there and you weren't there. Why? I don't know, and I'll never know. I'll never understand it. Some people grieve different. I understand that. We all grieve differently. But, come on. But it was a beautiful turnout to see how many people love my brother. We all do so much, and I'll never forget when they were finally closing that casket. The last time closing that casket. That was more later at the interment. But I remember they closed it to have us carry the casket. Or actually, no, they closed the casket and then we took it to the interment and it was already closed, I'm pretty sure. But I don't even remember. It was such a blur. I just remember stepping away from the casket when we were still at the funeral home and just reaching, literally reaching my arm, just no, I'm not leaving you. Like, I don't want to leave you. I don't want you to leave me. I don't want you to leave. I don't want you to go. I don't want to go. I want to go with you. If anything, that was my whole thing. Is like I want to go with you. I don't want to be here without you. I don't want to be here without you here. With him, it was always fun. It was always play. It was always a good time and smiles, laughs, tussles. Bickering. It was always so funny when we would get pissed at each other and you get hot for a second and then that's it. It's like, alright, bro, keep it pushing. That's my brother, it's just one moment everything's all funny and then next moment, you did it. And then you back to just chill. Miss those moments. So much to process, even to this day, so much to process. But we ended up going and I carried the casket, eventually we all drove to the actual cemetery, Detroit Memorial Park West. That's where he's buried. And we were in that little it was like a little room we're all in, and I remember just standing, I was standing in a line and there was people facing us and we were facing them, and I was by the casket. I was by the casket. My cat is clawing on the door. I was by the casket, and I remember just, oh my God, when it was time to leave that casket, I didn't want to say goodbye. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to, cause like, why would I? Why would I? Why would I want to go? Why would I want to leave my brother to go into the dirt? And that's where he ended up. He ended up in the dirt, and I remember going to this place after all that, and going to this place to eat. This big old like hall. I think it was like a place that they rented out or something. All the food, drinks, and everything. Bro, being in the parking lot and just so much that I couldn't even begin to explain that resulted from that. My brother's in the fucking ground. His body, at least. His spirit lives on through all of us. You know, you never truly lose anybody. That's what I've learned. They live on through you. As part of you. You never actually lose them. Even though their body is no longer in front of you. It's funny because now I feel even more connected to my brother than I ever did when he was alive. I feel even more connected to his energy. And I always feel his presence when it channels through me. I always see the signs and things that show up that remind me that he's never really gone anywhere. I just made a song called Prophet of Detroit. Prophet of Detroit, that song literally, the whole time I was making it, he was channeling through me, the whole time. I made many a song about him. There's so much more to get into as far as like the aftermath of how this impacted me for, I mean, really up to this point. Not even like for a year. I mean, it's still an ongoing process of some points are better than others, some lighter, some heavier. It's always tough around his birthday. It's always tough around the date he died. Holidays can be, you know, very tough because it's like he's no longer able to celebrate those. A lot of these like more bigger events, tougher. But we'll leave it there for now. You know, I do want to talk about how going back to New York was from his death. Because like I said, he literally died, and then 2-3 weeks later, I'm back in New York City doing school full time. My sophomore year at Parsons School of Design, the new school. Sophomore year was all just about the aftermath, the after effects of that death, the trauma that it caused, the pain that remained, right? The grief that I was struck with every single day, all the things that carried over from Michigan into New York, that bled into it. That wound that was so raw and exposed, it's like I don't even know how I survived, but I did. I'm here. I'm a survivor. I don't even know how I survived. Being out in New York at age 19 alone, you know, the only person I had out there was my ex-girlfriend, and then, you know, people that I knew in like school, a couple friends I had made in classes and whatnot. But for the most part, you know, that was it. I had my ex's friends and stuff too. Like they were around a lot around that time, and but no family, nobody to like turn to as far as like family. I ended up seeing a therapist. I ended up, going to anger management. I mean, I went to a lot, try to work through all that it brought up, but I want to get into that at a later point. I think his story, that it deserves to be sat with. It deserves to be sat with. It deserves to be just to be fully processed by, you know, not only myself, but then those of you who are listening to this and hearing his story. Hear his story. Elijah Craig Stewart, murdered at age 19 outside of a liquor store. This all took place in Michigan. And that's where we'll leave it.